hardcore Minecraft. A world where if you die, that's the end. One life, one chance. Today I'm going to be attempting to survive 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore. I've got 1 or 2 goals that I've set myself, nothing major. First one, survive 100 days. Because I've never done it before, and I think it'd be a cool thing to try, you know. I've seen quite a few people do it online, and I thought I'd give it a go myself. Second goal, beat the Ender Dragon. I've never done this on my own in a legit hardcore world, let alone anything else. Like I've never done it in a normal world either, so this might be a challenge for me. And I want to try and get an Elytra. These are essential for a hardcore world, and I really want to get one of these to finish off my 100 days. This is the first time that I've ever recorded or edited a video, so please go easy on me. And if you've got anything that you think I can improve on for the next 100 days, if you want to see that of course, let me know in the comments down below, and let's get into the 100 days. Day number 1. I just loaded into the world, and I knew that I'd have to get started straight away, no distractions. I started by chopping down some wood like any normal Minecraft player does, grabbed a couple trees and made some basic tools. As I was looking around in the area collecting a little bit of wood, I noticed there was a ravine that I'd spawned right next to. Noticed there was quite a lot of iron ore in it, so naturally I headed down into the mine after I'd made my tools and grabbed as much iron ore as possible. Whilst mining the iron, I dug straight down and took quite a bit of fall damage. That'll teach me for digging straight down. By the end of day 1, I made myself a little cobblestone shelter and watched the sun as it settled down behind the trees. By the start of day 2, I knew it was time for me to get moving. I knew I needed a bed, so that was my priority. Just over the hill that I was behind, I managed to find a sheep. So, I sheared him. And of course, I got 1 wool. 1. So I waited most of the day to get another one. And again, 1. 1 wool. I don't know what the sheep is doing to me, but sheared it again, and of course got 1 again. Like, just my luck. Anyway, carried on a bit further down, found myself a little area, and decided to settle down and call home. So naturally I grabbed some wood, and began with building the base. By the end of day 3, I had finished the base. It wasn't the best base I'd ever built, I will admit that, but yeah, I had somewhere to call home, and that was all that mattered. By day 4, I decided that it would be a good idea to head back to the ravine I started in, to grab as much coal and iron as I could. By the end of day 4, I decided to make a full set of iron armour with all the iron I'd collected. On day 5, I began by making a small little farm and completing the rest of my house by adding some more glass panes. I thought it looked a bit nicer now. By the end of day 5, I decided that it would be a good idea to start exploring. So I set sail to look for anything I could find nearby my house. During day 6, I murdered a couple pigs, and in the distance there was a village. So I headed there straight away. After I killed the pigs, of course. And yes, I did kill the baby, I am sorry. Once I got to the village, I looted up as much as I could. It was a bunch of rubbish really, just took the hay for the bread. And I decided to set sail and head home on day 7. By the end of day 7, I noticed there was a lot of cows and sheep wandering around my house, so I decided to make a small little pen for each of them. At the beginning of day 8, I decided that it would be a good idea to take on a skeleton and a witch at the same time. I had my shield and my axe, so I felt pretty prepared, but the witch hit me with a poison potion and got me down to 3 hearts. Luckily I killed them both and survived just about. That was the closest I've been to death so far, and I was a bit scared at this point. By the end of day 8, I decided that it would be a good idea to start mining, so I dug down a little hole in my house. And I ran into a lava pool. So for some reason, I don't even know why, I just decided that it'd be a good idea to make myself a nether portal using buckets of lava and water. Don't ask why, I just did. Day 9, I was still down in the mines, and I ran into a bit of a weird situation. There was a creeper and a skeleton. So I got the creeper down to 1 HP, and I tried to get the skeleton to shoot it. Because of course I wanted that music disc. And lo and behold, I managed to get more. My first music disc after 100 days. Thinking that would be the only disc I'd get this 100 days. A little bit down in the mine, I managed to get in the same situation again, and I also managed to find another music disc. I was pretty happy at this point. When I thought that day 9 couldn't get any better, I found diamonds. I decided to start mining them, and of course my pickaxe broke after I mined 2. Yep. So I set up camp next to the diamonds with a little furnace and crafting bench. Made myself a new pickaxe and grabbed up the 8 diamonds. By day 10, I'd finally made my way out of the mines and got back to my house. I decided it'd be a good idea to make up a couple diamond tools, just to be safe. And on the topic of being safe, I decided it'd be a good idea to make myself some walls with the cobblestone I'd managed to gather from being in the mine. And ironically, after I made the walls, somehow a wandering villager managed to get into my house with his 2 llamas. So I showed him what happens to people that trespass. Through days 12 to 14, I spent them down in the mines just gathering up as many resources as possible. Whilst I was still mining, I managed to find a creeper whose head was just popping over the stone, just staring at me. So I decided to go and investigate. After trying my hardest to conquer this mineshaft that I'd stumbled upon, I got down to 3 hearts while encountering a couple poisonous spiders. So I decided it would be the best idea to box up quickly and use the diamonds I'd gathered to make as much armour as possible, because I knew I would need it if I was going to get out of here alive. Finally, on day 14, I've managed to get out of the mineshaft and get back to my house. I decided, with the rest of the diamonds that I found on the way home, I'd make up the rest of my armour to have a full set of diamond armour. Through days 15 and 16, I decided that it would be a good idea to work on my house, a bit of house maintenance, because that was going to be needed every once in a while. And yes, I did finally make a floor. I know that was probably annoying some people, having a grass floor, but I didn't mind it. I also did a bit of terraforming, made a small path, and led it all the way down to my farm. By day 17, I'd changed my skin and also turned the shaders off. After I'd done that, I knew it was time to get straight back in. So I started by enchanting my tools with basic enchantments, as I knew tomorrow I was heading to the Nether. By day 18, I'd finally made my way into the Nether, and instantly I was welcomed by a ghast who decided to try and kill me. But of course it was no match for me, and I managed to kill it pretty quickly. After the close encounter with the ghast, I decided it would be a smart move to head home and grab gold, so I didn't have to farm as much when I was in the Nether. When I got back, I found a couple of piglins and started trading with them to see what I could get. By day 20, I just decided it would be a good idea to mine up some quartz, so I knew I was going to need some XP. Also grabbed a little bit of gold on the way as well. Through days 21 to 22, I decided to head out on another little adventure, and on my way I found this little temple underneath the water, so I headed in and I found a map. So I followed it, found the treasure, and grabbed up the loot that was inside the chest. I continued my adventure, and nearing the end of day 21 I managed to find a village that was pretty close to my house. It was getting late, so I decided that it would be a good idea to take shelter inside of one of the villagers' houses. Whilst watching the sunset, I noticed there was a witch hut off in the distance, so I decided on day 22 I was going to investigate. So I decided to suffocate it with sand. It took too long, so I decided to finish it off with my sword. By the end of day 22, I'd managed to get 2 villagers back to my house using boats. So on day 23, I decided to work on my new base. On day 24, I noticed that one of my villagers was on fire. Me, being the idiot I am, decided to try and break him out of the boat with a sword, which damaged him even more. In all the panic, I tried to get him into a boat and then realised that it just set him on fire again. By the time I got him under the shelter, it was over. The poor villager had died. After all the commotion, I decided the best thing to do was to grab my other villager and put it inside my house, just so that it was safe from all the zombies. And for the rest of day 24, I decided to keep working on my new house. On day 26, I decided that it would be a great idea to head back to the village to grab a new villager. By the time I got back, I made sure to put him straight inside my new house, just for protection. On day 27, I decided to make a small little area for my villagers inside my new base. And then I made it rain with bread, and the villagers made a small little baby. On day 28, I had one goal, to get a mending book villager, which actually didn't take me that long. I managed to get it in 4 tries, so I must be quite lucky. For the rest of day 28, I decided to go to my cow farm and make all my baby cows orphans. Throughout days 29 to 31, I decided to keep working on my villagers, so I managed to get a Fletcher which gave me sticks for emeralds, which I would later turn into 1 stick for 1 emerald, and a silk touch trade. On days 32 to 33, I decided to make a small little extension onto my villager area, just so they had a bit more room. I also then tried to get a protection 4 book, which I eventually got by the end of day 33. On days 34 to 35, I decided to set out into the nether to look for a nether fortress, as I knew I was going to need blaze powder and nether warts if I was going to make potions and eye of enders. By the end of day 35, I managed to find a fortress, and throughout 36 to 38, I decided that it would be a great idea to farm up some blaze rods. On day 39, I decided to head out to find some nether warts, which I found pretty easily. Whilst trying to find my way home from the nether fortress, I ran into something awesome, a bastion, so I decided to take it carefully and try to raid it. I only found 1 chest at the time, which had ancient debris in it, so I took it and ran. Through days 40 to 43, I was still trying to find my way home and ran into some endermen in the warp biome, so I quickly killed those for ender pearls. Finally, by the end of day 43, I managed to find the portal, and when I got home I decided to kill some flying sandwiches? I don't know why my texture pack did this. Anyways, on the topic of food, I decided to make a farm on day 45 to 46, so here's a quick montage of me hoeing the ground. And here it is, the end result of my farm. I think it turned out pretty well and I was really happy with it. On day 47, I knew that I was going to have to get netherite at some point soon, so I decided to shear all my sheep, collect up some wood, and on day 48, it was time to head back to the nether to find some netherite. Unfortunately, on days 49 to 53, after doing my bed mining, my recording had corrupted. So, all you can see here is a clip of me running through my bed mines, just to see what I've done so far. On day 54, I was finally home with my netherite. I'd managed to collect up 28 ancient debris, so I turned that into 7 ingots. I was extremely happy with myself at this point, as I knew I would have enough to make full armour and a couple of my tools into netherite at some point soon. To keep progressing on my villagers, I knew I was going to need potions of weakness, so on day 55 I made a small little potion shack to brew all my potions in. After I'd completed my brewing stand area, I decided to make up some potions of weakness. On day 56 to 57, I was gathering up some materials when out of the corner of my eye, I noticed one of my villagers changed. I was horrified to find out that it was my mending villager, who had turned into a butcher for some reason. For the rest of day 57, I tried to get mending, but managed to get a sharpness 5 instead. And then on day 58, I managed to get the mending book. Throughout the rest of day 58 and day 59, I decided to start working on turning my villagers into zombies, to then cure them for cheaper prices. Through days 60 to 62, I moved my main villagers into their own separate posts, which they definitely went into on their own. I didn't have to force them in with boats or anything, don't worry. For the rest of those days, I decided to start enchanting my armour with Prot 4 and Unbreaking 3. After completing all my armour enchantments, I noticed that there was a wandering villager outside my base, so I killed him for the leads. After that, I named my fish Nemo, and then on day 64 to 65, I decided to head back to the Nether for XP. So here's what you've all been waiting for, another quartz mining montage. After arriving home from the Nether with all the XP I was going to need to enchant my new tools, I now had to build them, so I went down to the mines and mined specifically just for diamonds. After returning home with all the diamonds I was going to need for my tools, I started to enchant them with the books that I had from my villagers, and also started to upgrade my tools to Netherite. On day 71 to 73, I knew that I was going to need Fortune 3 if I was going to do any more mining, so I could get a lot of resources quickly. Through days 74 to 76, I decided that I was going to work on a villager farm, as I wanted to use golden carrots as my source of food for the Ender Dragon fight, and I thought this would be a great way to try and get a lot of carrots quickly. So once again, cue the montage for making the villager farm. After completing the farm, on day 77, I knew the Ender Dragon fight was coming near, so I decided to make potions. I ended up making strength, swiftness and slow falling, as I thought they were the 3 essential ones I was going to need for the fight. Through days 78 to 79, I started doing simple trades with my villagers just to gain a couple emeralds. Today was the day. On day 80, I knew that it was time to head out for the End Portal, so I said my goodbyes and threw my first Eye of Ender. Whilst on my journey, I ran into a beehive, and I decided I would take it because I wanted to do bees at some point during my next 200 days. At the start of day 81, I ran into a group of horses, so I decided to tame one. And it totally wasn't because I was all alone in this hardcore world and I wanted a friend. I'd finally found the stronghold, so I set up my horse in a nearby lake, slept for what could have potentially been the last time ever, and said my goodbyes. On day 82, I made my way down into the stronghold. And after a day of searching, I finally managed to find the end portal. Day 83. This was it. Everything had led up to this one moment, the Ender Dragon fight. Day 84, I finally defeated the Ender Dragon. I was overwhelmed with happiness at this point, as I'd completed one of the main goals I had for these 100 days. So I didn't waste any time. I grabbed the egg and headed through the gateway. Once I arrived through the gateway, I spawned on a dangerous small platform, so I didn't take any chances, built a small bridge and then pearled the rest of the way. After several days of searching, I finally found it, the End City. And to my surprise, this one had a boat, which meant only one thing. I made quick work of the Shulker Guard, and there it was, the Elytra. I'd finally gotten it. And don't worry, I made sure to grab the Ender Dragon head on the end of the ship. On day 90, I was flying home from the city, and quite close by I managed to find a gateway, so I used that to get home. After I jumped back through the portal, I was greeted by my horse that I'd tamed recently before the fight. So I fed him a carrot, and we headed home. By day 93, I'd finally made it home. On days 94 to 95, I decided to take it easy as I just arrived home from the fight. So on day 94 I made myself some shulker boxes, and on day 95 I made up a small little podium for the dragon egg. After completing the podium, I placed the dragon head on my old house, and this was the finished product. I was really happy with how it turned out. On day 96, I decided to start enchanting my elytra, so I got a mending book, and then it took the rest of the day to try and get an unbreaking free villager. On day 97, I decided to farm, and I figured I hadn't given you guys a farming montage yet, and I know they're the best things about the 100 days, so here it is. For days 98 to 99, I decided to make up some simple fireworks to use for my new elytra. So I set off on a journey and found a sand temple. Inside the sand temple, I managed to find a saddle. I hadn't got one of these yet, and it would be perfect for using on my horse. On the way home, I managed to find a new pack of horses, so I decided to tame another horse to be a friend with my other horse back home. At the end of day 99, it was getting really dark, and I didn't want to risk letting my horse die, so I kept him by a tree, flew home, and went to bed. The day had finally come. It was day 100, and I had only one goal in mind: to go back and save my horse. I thought of the dumbest idea possible, in which I tied him to the lead and tried to fly home with my elytra, which unfortunately did not work. So I gave up with that idea and decided to just run him home. It was nearing the end of day 100 and I'd finally made it home with my horse. I fed them both golden carrots, and it turns out that's how they breed. So they made a little baby. And that was it, the end of day 100. I watched slowly as the sun went down to end my 100 days in hardcore Minecraft.